Today, I want to provide an overview of the book 12 Rules for Life by clinical psychologist Jordan Peterson. This book contains 12 rules that Peterson suggests can help people find meaning, purpose, and direction in their lives. The first rule is stand up straight with your shoulders back. This rule relates to the importance of proper posture, which Peterson argues is rooted in our biology as a hierarchical social animals. Just as lobsters puff themselves up to appear larger and establish dominance, humans straighten their spines and square their shoulders to portray confidence. Slouching, hunging over, and avoiding eye contact can signal low status. Peterson argues that standing up straighter with shoulders back not only projects confidence, but causes internal confidence as well. Citing research that posture impacts hormone levels, he suggests that straightening up can increase testosterone and reduce levels of the stress hormone cortisol. Testosterone gives a sense of dominance and calmness, while high cortisol relates to stress and negative emotion. So, minding your posture can help build dominance and resilience. Applying this, we can consciously monitor and adjust our posture in daily life. Make a habit of pulling your shoulders back and lifting your gaze, which will project and build confidence. Doing exercise like weightlifting that strengthens the back can ingrain good posture. The key is to embody the dominance that comes with proper posture. The second rule is treat yourself like someone you are responsible for helping. Peterson suggests we often treat ourselves worse than we would treat others we are responsible for. We cut ourselves slack on things like nutrition, sleep, organization, and leisure that we would never recommend to someone we cared for. He argues we have a moral obligation to take care of ourselves properly, since we each have potential to do good in the world. Self-care and discipline is a precursor to being able to effectively care for others. The example Peterson uses is to imagine a homeless stranger, then reflect on what advice you would give them to improve their situation. Then apply that same advice to your own life. To apply this, mentally view yourself as someone under your care. What lifestyle would you recommend, and what steps could be taken to implement it? Draft up a plan you would give a loved one for things like diet, exercise, sleep, organization, and goal setting. Then follow through and treat yourself as that loved one. The third rule is make friends with people who want the best for you. Peterson advocates being selective with your peer group, since you become like the people you associate with. Friends jealous of your success or who drag you down into unproductive behavior will influence you and share your future problems. He uses an example of two hypothetical siblings, Kate, who goes to medical school and becomes a surgeon, while her brother Michael falls into a reckless crowd and becomes an addict. Peterson suggests evaluating your current friendships. Are they genuinely supportive of your goals and identity? Do they bring out your best self? If not, it may be necessary to let go of relationships and build new ones centered on shared values. Surrounding yourself with those aiming higher will pull you up in turn. To apply this, list your primary friendships and the values and behaviors they reinforce. Determine which nurture your best self versus those enabling destructive habits. Start cultivating more time with supporters and making new friendships with those aiming where you want to go. Be prepared to leave behind relationships that don't serve your growth. The fourth rule is compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not who someone else is. Peterson argues that unhealthy social comparison is a major source of unhappiness and stagnation. Comparing yourself to others who are more advanced creates resentment, jealousy, and self-pity. He uses the example of Cain and Abel, where Cain's envy of his brother Abel's favor with God led him to murder his own brother. Peterson instead recommends comparing yourself to your former self. Are you moving incrementally forward? Even if slow, measurable progress compounded over time can yield major change. Use the example of famous scientists who made key breakthroughs later in life. Focus on your own previous weaknesses and habits you've had improved. Celebrate overcoming challenges that are behind you To apply this, keep a journal to record your regular progress and milestones. Note the skills gained, habits conquered, and knowledge acquired compared to a month or a year ago. Reframe perceptions of others, not as superiors, but as examples of what you could become in time through self-improvement. Measure your own advancement over time. The fifth rule is, do not let your children do anything that makes you dislike them. Peterson argues permissive and overprotective parenting prevents kids from developing necessary life skills and self-discipline. Children who cannot regulate their own behavior or defer gratification become unpleasant both for others and themselves. He gives the example of a parent thinking, "My child is only 2. He or she can't be expected to behave at the dinner table, and I don't want to interfere with his or her spontaneity." But this assumes incorrect ideas that 1. Discipline will damage spontaneity, 2. Discipline is punitive, and 3. Kids can't self-regulate given structure. Structure and boundaries are needed to develop skills. The parent projecting their own childhood resentment is not being themselves, but indulging in weakness. To apply this, identify any ways your children's misbehavior is impacting your affection and joy in parenting. Then set and enforce reasonable boundaries that both allow age-appropriate freedom and build self-control. Be consistent in rewarding good behavior and giving proportional consequences for rule breaking. Don't enable their worst selves. The sixth rule is, set your house in perfect order before you criticize the world. Peterson suggests that self-deception is the biggest impediment to change and fulfillment. Focusing on external factors you can't control is a defensive way of avoiding dealing with your own problems and inadequacies. It's hypocritical to criticize systems while your own life still has major issues. As an example, he discusses Alexander Solzhenitsyn's accounts of Soviet gulags. Prisoners who survived the brutal conditions did so not by righteous outrage at injustice, but through cultivating rigorous self-discipline and concentrating on the aspects of life they could control under the circumstances. External political activism was ineffective compared to internal psychological strength. To apply this, identify ways you may use. Focus on social activism, politics, or philosophy as an escape from dealing with your career, relationships, and bad habits. List steps you can take right now to get your own life in order before trying to fix the world. Clean your room, both literally and metaphorically. The seventh rule is, pursue what is meaningful, not what is expedient. Peterson argues that much of chronic dissatisfaction comes from pursuing achievement, money, status, and material possessions without deeper meaning behind them. This expedient but hollow path leaves people demoralized and regretful. He uses the example of Christ rejecting worldly power when tempted by the devil. Peterson suggests looking at the bigger picture of what you are aiming for in 5, 10, or 20 years, rather than momentary cravings and quick satisfaction. Does your current path align with your highest values? What steps can you take to build a legacy and make broader contributions? Postponing short-term pleasures for more difficult but rewarding goals will give greater fulfillment. To apply this, examine if your daily work and activities contribute to meaning and values that go beyond the expedient and immediate. Are you defaulting to behaviors due to temptation, habit, or convenience? Start to shift your time, energy, and focus towards more challenging but significant projects and relationships. Rule 8. Tell the truth, or at least don't lie. Peterson stresses the importance of honesty in both interpersonal relationships and in finding personal meaning. Lies corrupt ourselves and relationships built on them. By editing and distorting lies obscure the truth we need to live authentic lives. Refusing to admit reality makes it impossible to operate within it. As an example, he discusses Alexander Solzhenitsyn's realization that acknowledging his own role in history was necessary to find meaning. Only the truth could provide Solzhenitsyn with the insights he needed to live properly and overcome Soviet oppression. Though harsh, the truth allowed authentic being. To apply this, evaluate what areas of your life where you may be avoiding, omitting, or distorting the truth, either to yourself or others. Start confronting reality openly, even where uncomfortable, while also giving tactful responses when honesty causes unnecessary harm. Aim to build integrity and authenticity. The ninth rule is, assume that the person you are listening to might know something you don't. Peterson emphasizes being open-minded in discourse, starting from a point of listening rather than speaking. Good people often damage relationships and derail conversations by being stubbornly combative and opinionated. Assuming you already know everything prevents you from learning.
He uses the example of a psychologist who refused to change his therapeutic approach despite evidence that clients were not improving.
Because the psychologist could not be challenged, he could not improve his effectiveness to help patients. To apply this, monitor whether you listen receptively in conversations or are prone to interruption and lecturing. Before arguing, summarize the other person's point to see if you understand where they're coming from. Ask questions to uncover reasoning behind their opinions you had not considered. Maintain humility. The 10th rule is be precise in your speech. Peterson argues that imprecise speech not only promotes confusion in communication, but clouds an individual's thinking and perception of the world. Using vague terms with ambiguous meanings deteriorates our ability to think critically and articulate ideas accurately. To apply this, identify areas of your life where you may be using diffuse labels rather than precise language. Are there words with vague meanings you default to? Start developing specificity in articulating ideas and describing observations, even if it takes more words. Precise terms denote precise thinking. Rule 11. Do not bother children when they are skateboarding. Here, Peterson uses skateboarding as a metaphor for the drive toward competence mastery that develops confidence. Overprotecting kids from risk prevents their independence. He argues allowing children freedom helps them develop skill and sense of self from their own experience. He uses the example of 11-year-olds whose parents prohibited them from crossing the street alone, fostering dependence. However, Peterson let his own 11-year-old daughter roam more freely in the neighborhood to gradually gain autonomy. Children develop through risk-taking within reason. To apply this, identify any ways you may shelter your kids from healthy independence. Make a list of your concerns. Then set small goals, stepping outside the comfort zone based on their maturity. Prepare then to deal responsibly with risk and gain self-reliance. Avoid being overprotective. The 12th rule is pet a cat when you encounter one on the street. The metaphor of stopping to pet cats represents that life can be meaningful even in the face of its hardship and suffering. Small moments of connection and joy with pets, nature or loved ones are to be appreciated despite the greater challenges. For example, when his daughter was paralyzed with arthritis, the simple act of seeing a friendly neighborhood cat provided needed relief from the heavier burdens they faced. Pausing to show affection to the cat lifted the spirits. Peterson argues to be open to the little graces within each day. To apply this, carry an attitude of gratitude for whatever small blessings arise each day, whether a positive interaction with a coworker or a nice meal. Make a list each evening of 3 things that went well or brought joy, or savor and appreciate them. Don't let life's troubles blind you to each day's redeeming moments. Those are Peterson's 12 rules for life.
The common themes include taking personal responsibility, aligning actions with meaningful values, cultivating strong relationships, and facing life's difficulties with fortitude and grace.
Peterson derives insights from theology, literature, psychology, and lived experience to articulate pragmatic advice for finding a deep sense of meaning and purpose. Let me know which of the 12 rules resonated most with you in the comments.